A babbling brook. Oh boy, a babbling brook of blather
Blather,
and Blarney.
a babbling brook of blather. All right.
It turns out I'm Irish, so actually Blarney is quite appropriate. I just found that out a couple of years ago.
That somehow does not surprise me. All right, guys.
Brooks always seem to be babbling. It's like I've never heard of a dervish that wasn't whirling.
Oh, Brooks babble, dervishes whirl. Yes, yeah. So like if dervishes started babbling and Brooks started whirling, we'd have problems.
I've seen Brooks that were whirling for sure.
Oh, okay. All right.
I knew someone named Brooke that whirled.
Oh. Well, here's your funny bit for the intro.
We've got it. All right. This is Chris Carluck. That is Harold Phillips and Patrick Dixon.
Chris, hold on. We got to hold on. We got a call from Virginia. Caller. Yes, this is John Barron. I'm not the president, but I want to say this show is the worst.
Patrick, you got anything? I don't even know what he's talking about.
Oh, you didn't hear about the C-SPAN thing where someone who sounded remarkably like Trump using the name of the publicist he supposedly had that was always him calling newspapers called into C-SPAN?
Back in the day. That's right. When Trump would call up as his own.
And he did it last weekend.
Really?
Oh, no. C-SPAN says that wasn't the president because it was from a number in Virginia. So couldn't have been him, right?
John Barron.
In any case, you are listening to the Labor Radio Podcast Weekly, your sampler of the very best new episodes across the network.
I do not think this episode is going to go down in history as the best, if that intro is any indication.
The best Trump impersonations.
Definitely not the best Trump impersonations.
Keep working on it.
But on this week's show, San Francisco educators hit the picket lines on Workweek Radio.
There are days when the job is so hard, I keep asking myself, why are you doing this? I'm doing this for our students.
Community college faculty prepare for a possible first ever strike on Labor Radio on KBOO FM.
I do think that we see ourselves now as connected into this larger struggle, right? In Oregon, in the country, in this area.
A Kaiser nurse explains why patient safety is driving a massive healthcare strike on Riverside Rank and File.
One of the dynamic shifts that I've seen throughout my profession is the prioritization more towards profits, and we're steering away more from patient-centered care. And that's concerning to us as nurses in a collective.
Unite and Win shares strategies for protecting immigrant workers.
When people say, why don't you come legally? Because it takes 24 years. Well, why don't you get a work permit? Because there are only 60,000 work permits a year.
And Labor History Today uncovers labor landmarks and how working class memory survives.
What connects these two places, separated by decades and geography, is the Labor Heritage Foundation's brand new Labor Landmarks Map. All right, Patrick, what ties all these shows together?
Workers organizing on the shop floor, in schools, and in hospitals.
All right, let's get to it. First up, San Francisco educators were out on strike for the first time in 50 years.
Workweek Radio covered thousands rallying for living wages, safe staffing, and protections for immigrant students as statewide tensions over school funding escalated.
This is KPOO San Francisco at 89.5 FM and kpoo.com on the internet. Next is Workweek.
Are forever, said the dog on the tombstone. If you're living underneath the bridge, man, all roads lead to home. I got a hidden flask, I'm paid in cash, got a cross above my bed. You know, I hitchhiked from Chicago, and a man walked up and said, this is a union town, a union town.
This is Steve Zeltzer with Workweek. On this week's Work Week, we cover the strike of over 6,000 UESF teachers and education workers. Over 6,500 UESF teachers, librarians, paraprofessionals, counselors, and nurses went on strike on February 9th. They are demanding living wages, free health care for their families, and the end of understaffing, which threatens the educational conditions of immigrants, blacks, and brown students. UESF held a mass rally with thousands of members, students, and supporters at San Francisco Civic Center.
Welcome, everyone! This is a beautiful sight to behold. I am overcome right now with everyone here. I can feel your energy, and it is giving me strength. It is giving me hope. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Christine Lay. I am a special education teacher here at SFUSD, and I am also a UESF bargaining team member. There are days when the job is so hard, I keep asking myself, why are you doing this? I'm doing this for our students. I am doing this for our families. And I'm doing this for each and every one of you. You are here because you are committed to our students. You are here because you are committed to public education and public schools. Public schools and public education are the veins and the arteries of the city. And our educators and all of you are the beating hearts. We are here together to fight for what's right. And I just want to say, and lead us in a chant, we are UE. Yes, at this time, I want to introduce to you Lisa, who's going to be my partner MC extraordinaire.
My name is Lisa Richardson. I am a family liaison at Malcolm X Academy. I am so grateful to be here today because it is my ancestors who started the union, and it is the reason why we're here today. I'm going to introduce Natalie Harisi, who is United Educators Vice President of Substitutes.
I am so proud to be here with you today. I have been an educator in this district since 2007, and both of my children are students in SFUSD. And I have never been prouder to be a part of this district and this union. What you did today can truly be called historic. You came out to 130 work sites with pickets I've never seen before. And not
this is Judy Ansell from the Heartland Labor Forum. We're radio that talks back to the boss, and we're proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network with more than 200 labor radio shows and podcasts from across the country and around the world. The Labor Radio Podcast Network, where working people speak. Find us at laborradionetwork.org.
You're listening to the Labor Radio Podcast Weekly from the Labor Radio Podcast Network, laborradionetwork.org.
Up in Portland, faculty say they're ready to walk.
From Labor Radio on KBOO FM, instructors and staff at Portland Community College describe their contract fight and why they may strike for the first time in the college's history. Something going out on the West Coast there, Harold. What's that?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. This would not just be the first strike in the college's history, it'd be the first community college strike in the history of Oregon. Can you believe that?
Wow, and I'm not surprised, actually, they would be up there in Portland. So go Portland!
To you, the 9-to-5er, just making your way home. To you, the all-night driver, out in your cab alone. To you, waiting for lunch break, as the minutes drag so slow. Take courage, turn the volume up, it's Labor Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Labor Radio of the working class by the working class for the working class. I'm Jamie Partridge, your host this evening. Our topic is PCC Ready to Strike. Our guests are Laura Wadlin, who usually co-hosts this program with me, of the Portland Community College Federation of Faculty and Academic Professionals, PCC-FFAP, and Meryl De Pasquale of the Portland Community College Federation of Classified Employees, PCC-FCE. Laura is an English as a second language instructor at the Rock Creek campus, and Meryl is an administrative assistant at the Rock Creek campus. Thank you both for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Good to be here.
So PCC FFAP represents 1,600 full-time and part-time instructors and academic professionals, such as admissions counselors, accountants, and academic advisors. PCC FCE represents almost 700 classified employees, such as administrative assistants, front desk clerks, IT staff, custodians, public safety officers, and other college support workers. Portland Community College is Oregon's largest post-secondary institution with a total enrollment of over 80,000 full and part-time students attending credit and non-credit courses at 4 campuses and smaller facilities in Multnomah, Clackamas, Washington, Columbia, and Yamhill counties. If the Federation of Faculty and Academic Professionals and the Federation of Classified Employees strike, it will be not only the first strike in Portland Community College history, but the first community college strike in Oregon history. And as far as we know, the first time when the faculty and classified employees have gone on strike together. So please give our listeners a sense of what the main sticking points are in your negotiations for a labor agreement with the college administration.
So basically it's the COLA, the cost of living adjustment has been a huge sticking point. I think that management's first response and their first offer that they came in with was 0.25%. And it was just insulting and shockingly low, especially with consumer price index hovering around 3%, the inflation that we've all been seeing and feeling. And then after negotiations had kind of crawled on, they were like, oh, well, we'll raise it to 0.35%, as if that was a big adjustment. So our members are feeling very disrespected by that. And then management has also been stalling and delaying bargaining, and their offer does not include retroactive pay. So it kind of rewards them for the delays that they've put into the process. And there's other things too, there's no cost proposals that they wouldn't even consider bargaining on. And their benefits package, hasn't satisfied our members.
Our members are extremely concerned about the cuts to classes and the closure of extremely popular programs. You may have heard about the Music and Sonic Arts program, which is a nationally renowned program for people to get into the music industry. It's not just like music theory or orchestral music. It's to be a sound tech or, do the behind the scenes stuff at a concert or something. And this is extremely well enrolled, totally beloved by students, and the college just decided to cut it. And they have no explanation for why. Multimedia, the program that does video production, they're very worried based on class cuts that they might be next on the chopping block. Courses in English, art, math have been very reduced for the next terms. Offerings are reduced, even for classes that are historically extremely well enrolled. These are revenue generating classes. Classes that students need to go on to their specific certificate or associate's degree that they're working towards.
So how are you preparing for a possible strike? How have you been agitating and educating your members?
Well, we have held rallies and practice pickets now at 3 of the 4 campuses, and the last one, Rock Creek, is next week, Wednesday, February 25th at 12:30. Please come and join us. This is like kind of measuring how well can a union turn out their members. Do we have enough people who will keep those picket lines strong, that kind of thing. We've seen really good attendance at our rallies, like 70 to 80 folks. And it's just been a really inspiring experience hearing from people throughout the workforce.
One of our most important structure tests was a strike pledge.
Can you explain to the listeners what a structure test is?
A structure test is how you know that you're organized. It is an action that tells you how powerful you are based on the number of people who participate and how they participate, how risky or fired up the action is, or how difficult.
And which parts of the workforce are engaged and which parts are not, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And like a lot of times it is an action, but not necessarily only like a rally or practice picket. Like we had strike pledges and we saw how many of our members signed those strike pledges. And this week we're conducting the strike authorization vote, and we'll have those results soon to look at too. And those will provide us with more information about where our members are at. I do think that we see ourselves now as connected into this larger struggle, right? In Oregon, in the country, in this area, we're a part of something bigger than just ourselves. But also it's bigger than just this one timeline, right? Like what's happening right now with the way that education gets funded is going to be an ongoing problem. And by engaging and activating our members right now, I think that we're building strength for like struggles that may lie ahead next bargaining cycle and the one after that.
Hello, this is Eric Lee from Labor Start. We're proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network with more than 200 labor radio shows and podcasts from around the world. The Labor Radio Podcast Network, where working people speak. Find us at laborradionetwork.org.
Meanwhile, healthcare workers are fighting to protect patients.
On Riverside Rank and File, a frontline Kaiser nurse explains why 30,000 healthcare professionals are striking over staffing levels and patient safety, not just wages.
This is a new show on the network, right?
Brand new Riverside Rank and File. It kind of rolls off the tongue nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they've got a nice flair to the intro too.
Oh yeah, I like that soundtrack. That was pretty fun.
More and more, I think we're hearing a lot of 80s rock-inspired labor radio and podcast intros. We need to keep that going. We need to feel like we're at the Whiskey A Go-Go when we're plugging in our headphones.
Rank and File, we make the future fair. Our voices rise, hit us. This power is ours to share.
The United American Network presents Riverside Rank and File, the voice of labor for Riverside County, California, a podcast for working people, by working people. Your host is labor advocate Steve Matthews. Here, the Rank and File speak out on jobs, justice, and dignity at work. Now, here's Steve.
Hello, this is Riverside County Rank and File, and I'm Steve Matthews, your host. We have Liz Marlowe that's here today from UNAC. She is one of the striking nurses that's working at Kaiser Permanente. Hello, Liz. Welcome.
Hi. Happy to be here. Thank you, Steve, so much.
So my understanding is this is one of the largest labor disputes with nursing in our country's history. So my understanding is that you work at Fontana Permanente, Fontana Hospital?
In the cath lab.
In the cath lab, okay. And so there's over 30,000 nurses, that I'm understanding, nurses and healthcare professionals on strike that are UNAC members. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. That's over 30,000 of us, nurse practitioners, optometrists, registered nurses, speech audiologists, dietitians. So UNAC does represent more than just our discipline. And yeah, we're all in it, in the fight on the strike line. This is our fourth week now, come Friday.
So it's all the nurses in Kaiser that are in Riverside County and San Bernardino County and some other counties in the state as well.
Yes, San Diego County as well.
So in doing the 4 weeks of the strike, I'm sure there are things that your union would like support. Well, we're certainly not corporate trust. We're not someone that is looking at the corporate side. We're completely heart and soul behind you as nurses and what you do for the community. What are the ways that we can be helpful to you? What are the things you want us to do to support you as nurses in your strike?
Goodness, there's quite a few things right now. The picture that Kaiser is painting of nurses is that it's about the money.
Yep.
And it isn't about the money. The priorities that we want to safeguard are patient-centered care. And that's first and foremost. Being in healthcare 23 years, but being with Kaiser now 15 years, going on 15.
Cool.
That's one of the dynamic shifts that I've seen throughout my profession is the prioritization more towards profits, and we're steering away more from patient-centered care. And that's concerning to us as nurses in a collective. We are 31,000 strong, and we are setting the precedent. We have to stand firm and draw the line.
You made it very clear the reason you got into nursing is for that patient care. And
Yes.
that was your dedication. And it's still your dedication, right?
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
I think people need to understand that the nurse-to-patient ratios and the staffing saves lives.
Yes.
Right? In my case, it saved me in that period of time. I should say to anyone that's watching that it could be your mother, it could be your father, it could be your child, it could be you. And you want really professional nurses like you and these nurses that are on strike, you want them at your bedside.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. We are the safeguards, and I feel, in my own personal opinion, you can't put a dollar sign on someone's life, on someone's care, on someone's treatment. Our patients are so valuable to us and so precious. We give our heart, sweat, and tears into what we do, into what we immerse ourselves in, to our medical craft. We're very dedicated and we love what we do. If we didn't love what we do and have passion for it, we wouldn't be in this type of profession and fighting so hard and standing firm.
So we want you back bedside. We want you with all that care and professionalism. And so what do we need to do? We need to call Kaiser and tell them to start bargaining in good faith. Is that something do we need people to walk the picket lines? Will people walk the picket lines with you?
What I have actually seen, what I What I love and I have observed is our patients getting involved and going to investinpatientcare.org. And they're sharing their own personal stories of their experiences and what they're going through with delays in treatment, delays in their medical care, waiting months to see a physician, or their urgent care wait times being over 6 hours, their emergency wait times being 12 hours sometimes, over 99 people in the waiting room. I mean, it's severe conditions that we're dealing with as far as throughout all departments in Kaiser, throughout the whole healthcare system.
It's been a joy to have you here. This is one of the most important fights for unionized workers in our country, because it's about our health as well. I've lived
Steve.
and appreciate your nurses, in particular at your hospital, and I think that everyone look at it that way. This could be you that need these professional nurses at your bedside. So support these nurses now while they need the support, and they'll be there for you when you need it.
Thank you, Steve, so much. I truly appreciate you.
Hello, powerful people. This is Seth Harris from the Power at Work blog. We're proud to be a part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network. It has more than 200 labor radio shows and podcasts from across the country and around the world. The Labor Radio Podcast Network, where working people speak. Find us at laborradionetwork.org. That's all one word, laborradionetwork.org. Thanks.
In a bonus episode of Unite and Win, Jorge Mujica shares strategies for keeping immigrant workers safe in a climate of growing political pressure.
Welcome to Unite and Win, a guide to workplace organizing, a podcast series by the Emergency Workplace Organizing Committee, presented in partnership with Haymarket Books. My name's Kim Kelly. In today's bonus episode, we're celebrating the work and resilience of our immigrant comrades. With Jorge Mujica's help, we share strategies for keeping them safe under an increasingly authoritarian government. All right, so Mr. Mujica, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners, and could you tell us what your association is with EWOC?
Well, I'm a Mexican immigrant, but I have lived more than half of my life here in the United States, particularly in Chicago. I'm a labor activist and immigration activist, obviously because that goes together. I work at a worker center, a nonprofit organization organizing immigrant workers, and therefore we tap into both labor and immigration issues. And particularly in the last few months, and for the foreseeable, 3.5 years, we will be talking about immigration a lot. So basically what I do is give labor rights workshops and then try to create groups and organizing committees in workplaces. Every now and then, whenever we can, we try to connect groups of workers with labor unions so they can unionize and be under the protection of collective bargaining agreements. It's not that frequent, unfortunately. Mostly we face the employer directly. We do direct actions, letter writing. We file complaints with the National Labor Relations Board, Illinois Department of Labor, and every other government agency when that is the case. And my relationship with EWOC is because I've been invited and I participate. I'm a DSA member also. Not very active, I have to admit. But I'm a DSA member.
You got the card.
I've been for years. And we have also worked with UE in at least one particular union campaign here in Chicago. At some point, I did work for UE at several points, actually, over the years. We did a plastics industry blitz in Chicago, crazy stuff back in the 90s, and many other things.
Wow, so this isn't your first rodeo, it sounds like.
Absolutely not.
We mentioned outside of kind of labor-specific challenges, there's a lot of other stuff happening. People are being kidnapped, they're being grabbed off the street by masked thugs. Latino workers are being targeted. It seems almost obvious, but with this climate that we're in, with this incredibly just viciously anti-immigrant racist rhetoric we're seeing from the highest echelons of power, what are the biggest material issues that are facing immigrant workers now? And I guess more importantly, what can we do to be keeping each other and our neighbors and our coworkers safe, or at least safer?
Well, it depends on your place in society. If you are an undocumented immigrant worker, that's one thing. If you are a relative of an undocumented worker, that's a second stage. If you are a U.S. citizen, naturalized, and if you are a U.S. born citizen, and if you're white, and if you're black. So it depends on where you are in this society. I yesterday had a working meeting with a group of allies. And I told them, well, number one, you have to learn about immigration because immigration is such a broad issue and so complicated, and it's got so many nuances and facts like, it takes a Mexican national 24 years to get a legal visa to come and live in the United States. When people say, why don't you come legally? Because it takes 24 years. Well, why don't you get a work permit? Because there are only 60,000 work permits a year. That's it. And the economy needs 1.5 million people, not because the immigration system is based on degree of relatives, family. Whether you are the son, the daughter, over 18, under 18, married, not married, full-time student, etc., there are degrees of relativeness that allow you to get or not get a visa, in order to counter all this narrative about, immigrant equals criminal. No, wait a second. 3 years ago, immigrant meant hero. It meant essential worker, because you sustain the whole society. Well, but now we are criminals. So in order to counter all that narrative, we have to learn a lot about immigration. That's one task. Go to meetings, go to immigration organizations, make the effort to learn a little bit, and then help that way.
Thank you so much, Jorge. You gave me so much hope, and I'm like a cynical Philly dude. I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation. You got to share your wisdom and your hope. And it sounds like everyone listening to this has homework now.
Absolutely. Everybody's got homework. Yeah.
Hi, this is Michael Funky from the Radical Songbook on PirateButteRadio.com. I'm proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network with over 200 radio shows and podcasts across the country and around the world. Tune in, laborradionetwork.org. Power to the workers.
On this week's Labor History Today, we visited major strike sites in both Canada and North Carolina. This is our new Labor Landmarks map. It's from the Labor Heritage Foundation, and Patrick and Harold and I, wearing our Labor Heritage Foundation hats, have been working very hard. And newsflash here, which maybe you guys don't even know, I think we launched with 275 sites about maybe 10 days ago now, something like that.
Something like that.
We have added, and this is actually not just us, this is people just going to the site and adding stuff, almost 50 new sites.
Check it out. And if there's a site that you know of that's not on the map, submit it to us and we'll add it to the map.
laborheritage.org and click on resources.
It was late and getting dark fast in Hamilton, Ontario. I'd been driving all day from Washington, D.C. I'd cleared the Canadian border and was due at the opening of a new exhibit at the Workers' Arts and Heritage Center. Spotting a couple of porta potties in an empty, snow-covered field off Barton Street, I pulled over to relieve myself and stretch my legs. When I stepped back outside, I noticed in the fading light a black and white image on a nearby wall, a line of figures standing in front of a building, a tree trunk prominent in the foreground. I crunched carefully across the snow. Now I could make out the words above the image. Ghost Landscape, the People's Park, 75 years later. Below that it read, commemorating the 1947 Stelco strike and the Parks Board's so-called modernization that forever changed Woodlands Park, a beautiful public space with deep roots in labor history. I stood there for a moment in the cold looking at that image, because this wasn't just art, it was evidence. Evidence that something important had happened here, something powerful enough that decades later, the landscape itself still carried the scars. I'm Chris Garlock, and this is Labor History Today. On today's show, you'll hear about that strike and how it literally reshaped the physical landscape of a city. And you'll also hear about another place, far to the south, where labor conflict left its mark, the site of the 1929 Marion Massacre in Marion, North Carolina. What connects these two places, separated by decades and geography, is the Labor Heritage Foundation's brand new Labor Landmarks Map. You can find it at laborheritage.org. Click on Resources, then Labor Landmarks Map. There, you'll discover more than 300 places marking the struggles of working people, monuments and memorials, murals and markers, preserved buildings and vanished ones. Today, we'll visit two of them. The Marion Mill Strike of 1929 took place at the Marion Manufacturing Company in Marion, North Carolina. It would culminate in what became known as the Marion Massacre, one of the deadliest labor conflicts in Southern textile history. But today, there's no major monument marking the site. I only learned about it while visiting Raleigh recently, looking for labor history landmarks. Jeremy Sprinkle of the North Carolina AFL-CIO told me that their office, where the state's labor history exhibit is stored, is, in his words, a shrine of sorts to the Marion Massacre, with paintings, plaques, artifacts, memory preserved indoors because outside, much of the physical evidence has disappeared. To understand what happened in Marion, we have to understand the broader moment. The late 1920s were a period of rising worker unrest across the South. Textile workers endured grueling hours, dangerous conditions, low pay, and the stretch out forcing fewer workers to operate more machines for less money. Workers were often paid in company scrip, usable only at company-owned stores. It was a system designed to trap workers economically. In 1929, strikes erupted across the southern textile belt, in Gastonia, North Carolina, in Elizabethton, Tennessee, and in Marion. Women workers played a crucial role in organizing these strikes. They led meetings, walked picket lines, and challenged a system built on exploitation. In Marion, workers struck in July 1929. They struck without formal union backing, but with determination. Violence and intimidation followed. National Guard troops were deployed. Workers returned to their jobs, but without achieving their demands. Tensions simmered. Then came October 2nd, 1929. As the sun rose that morning, hundreds of picketing workers gathered outside the Marion manufacturing plant. Sheriff's deputies confronted them. Some of those deputies were not experienced law enforcement. They were anti-union mill employees hastily sworn in just before the confrontation. What happened next remains disputed, but the outcome is clear. Deputies opened fire. When the tear gas cleared, 6 workers were dead or dying. Dozens more were wounded. Some had been shot in the back. Hospitals refused to treat them. Churches refused to hold funerals. Deputies were charged, but all were acquitted. Strike leaders were fired. Families were evicted. Workers were driven out of town. The mill eventually closed, and in 2011, it was demolished, brick by brick. At the time, a reporter noted that a small gravestone marked the spot where strikers had been killed. But today, it's unclear whether that gravestone still survives, whether that physical marker of sacrifice remains, or whether it, too, has disappeared. Another landscape altered, another memory at risk. This is Labor History Today. I'm Chris Garlock. Today we're exploring sites from the Labor Heritage Foundation's Labor Landmarks Map. Now we return to Hamilton, Ontario, and the Stelco strike of 1946. Stelco had resisted unionization for decades, but by 1946, workers were ready. On July 14th, 1946, they gathered at the Playhouse Theater. They voted overwhelmingly to strike. Their demands included union recognition, higher wages, and a 40-hour work week. The next day, they walked out. The strike quickly spread. At its height, 20% of Hamilton's industrial workforce was involved. Workers across industries joined in solidarity. Rail workers refused to cross picket lines. Restaurant workers refused to serve police. The city stood with labor. Hamilton's mayor, Samuel Lawrence, was central to that support. Lawrence had immigrated from England. He was a stonecutter by trade. He became a member and later a leader of the local stonecutters union. Quick sidebar on Sam Lawrence. He was born in Somerset, England, and went to work in a quarry at the age of 12. He became a shop steward in the Operative Stonemasons Union at the age of 18. While serving in the Coldstream Guards during the Boer War, a fellow worker loaned Lawrence Looking Backward by Edward Bellamy. Lawrence's experience in the Boer War and Bellamy's American utopian novel led to him becoming a socialist. In 1912, the trade unionist and war veteran decided to follow 3 of his brothers and 2 sisters who had already gone to Canada, settling in Hamilton, Ontario, where he immediately joined the Journeymen Stonecutters Association of North America. His experiences as a worker shaped his politics. He was elected to city council, and in 1944, he became mayor. Known as Mr. Labor, Lawrence openly supported the striking workers. When the workers walked out in 1946, the company responded with thousands of strikebreakers. Violence erupted and workers fought back. The union organized patrol boats to stop shipments of scab steel. They even deployed their own airplane. Musicians like Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger performed for workers. Community kitchens fed families. Hamilton became a city united in labor struggle. After nearly 3 months, the workers won. Union recognition was secured. It was a landmark victory, but it also triggered backlash. Woodlands Park had become a gathering place for workers, a symbol of labor solidarity, and that made the city's elite uneasy. In 1947, just before May Day, the Parks Board removed the trees, the bandstand, the gathering places. The park was flattened. Officially, it was modernization. In reality, it was suppression. Without trees, there was no shade. Without shade, there were no crowds. Without crowds, there was no organizing. The landscape itself had been redesigned to discourage labor assembly. The transformation is remembered today through the Ghost Landscape Project, a reminder that labor history lives in physical places, and that power often tries to reshape those places, to reshape memory itself. The Labor Landmarks Map exists to preserve those memories, to mark the places where workers fought, where they gathered, where they won, and where they paid the price. This project was inspired in part by Labor Heritage Foundation co-founder and board chair Saul Schneiderman, whose inventory of American labor landmarks has long been an invaluable resource documenting sites of labor history. It's also inspired by my father, John Garlock, whose guide to the local assemblies of the Knights of Labor helped document one of the most important labor movements in American history. And the map itself, the design and interface, was created by Paul Henshaw. Together, their work helps ensure that these places and the stories they hold are not forgotten. You can explore the map yourself at laborheritage.org, click Resources, then Labor Landmarks Map. And if you know of a landmark in your community, you can submit it directly, because labor history is everywhere, if you know where to look. That's it for this week's edition of Labor History Today. It's produced by the Labor Heritage Foundation and the Kalmanovitz Initiative for Labor and the Working Poor at Georgetown University. You can subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and if you like what you hear, and I really hope you do, please leave a review. It helps others to find the show. For Labor History Today, I'm Chris Garlock. Thanks so much for listening. Keep making history. We'll see you next time.
Don't you see, there's a better world that's a-coming, don't you see? When we'll all be union and we'll all be free, there's a better world that's a-coming, don't you see? There's a better world a-coming, and don't you know, no, there's a better world that's a-coming, don't you know? I'm a union man in a union war, it's a union world I'm fighting for. There's a better world that's a-coming, don't you know? There's a better world that's a-coming, there's a better world that's a-coming, there's a better world that's a-coming, I'll tell you why, don't you see, and don't you know, no, hey, there's a better world that's a-coming, I'll tell you why, there's a better world that's a-coming, don't you why? There's a better world that's coming, tell you why. Better world that's coming, tell you why. Out of marching, out of battling, you can hear the chains are rattling. There's a better world that's coming, tell you why. Now there's a better world that's coming, and there's a better world that's coming, and there's a better world that's coming, I'll tell you why. Why. There's a better world that's coming, and don't you see. Better world is a-coming, and tell you see. Better world is a-coming, and don't you see? Well, there's a better world that's a-coming, I'll tell you why.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2011. That was the day the labor movement took an historic stand in Madison, Wisconsin. That cold Saturday, a crowd of union members and supporters swelled to more than 100,000 people at the state capitol building. The protesters were there to march, sing, chant, and stand defiant against anti-union legislation proposed by Wisconsin's Republican governor, Scott Walker. Known as Act 10, the legislation aimed to slash union rights of public sector workers. The protests at the Capitol had begun with a small crowd on Valentine's Day. Nearly 2 weeks later, historian Stuart Leventon called the protests the biggest crowds in Madison's history. As protesters marched, famous supporters and labor leaders gave speeches. Peter Yarrow of the musical group Peter, Paul, and Mary exhorted to the crowd, "The eyes of the world are on you." And he was right. Media coverage of the massive protests dominated news channels. Labor was taking a stand. Yet despite the massive protest, the Wisconsin Republicans had a supermajority in the legislature to pass their anti-union attacks. Since 2011, they have expanded their attacks to the private sector as well, passing a statewide right-to-work law. The impact has been devastating to working people in Wisconsin. Public sector workers have had to pay more for health care and retirement, losing 10% of their real wages. Governor Walker had promised to create a $250 250,000 new jobs during his first term. He could not even deliver half that amount. By the summer of 2015, Wisconsin median family income growth ranked 50th in the nation. Those who marched in Madison could see these dark days coming. What will it take to stop these attacks on working people?
It's Shows You Should Know, our weekly spotlight on shows you might not have caught yet. Yo! On Boiling Point, the fight to defend the U.S. Postal Service intersects with concerns about federal pressure on voter rolls and election systems.
Over on Labour Force, Mike breaks down the Kaiser strike, Volkswagen workers cracking the so-called Southern Wall, and organizing in unexpected workplaces, including Nevada's legal brothel industry.
This is such an important story, actually. I mean, when they said that the courtesans, that's the actual legal name for the people who are working at the brothel in Nevada, people were all like, well, okay, they're workers. They should be able to unionize. But
Absolutely.
It's come out recently what some of the big issues in this union drive are, and it's all about AI. The owners want them to sign over the rights of their likeness so they can use them in AI for, I don't know, commercials in Japan or whatever. So actually, really important story. Check this out.
The Workers' Mic covers a historic union liberation campaign in Canada as IUE Local 959 raids out CLAC in the largest campaign of its kind. That's got to be all kinds of fascinating. Harold, do you have any insight into that?
That is a really big story. So CLAC, the Christian Labor Association of Canada, I think, or something like, they're actually basically a company union. I mean, they were supposedly unionized in all these construction sites, and they were just basically making sweetheart deals with the boss. And so many people were complaining about them. IUOE stepped up and they basically switched jurisdiction in 955 sites. It was amazing. You should totally listen to this. And on El Cafecito del Dia, union leaders in Minnesota talk about supporting immigrant families amid heightened fear and harmful immigration policies.
Finally, on Roswell Hub, the question for Teamsters is take the UPS buyout or hold the line?
That's a pretty tough question.
Oof, glad I'm not a Teamster. All right, that is a wrap for this week's Labor Radio Podcast Weekly.
Your roundup of more than 200 shows in the Labor Radio Podcast Network.
Find links to every show at laborradionetwork.org and follow hashtag Labor Radio Pod on Blue Sky, X, Facebook, and Instagram.
Tell us what you think. info@laborradionetwork.org.
Support the network with union-made t-shirts, 2 colors, all sizes.
At laborradionetwork.org.
The show edited and produced this week by all 3 of us, Chris, Patrick, and Harold.
But mostly Patrick, let's be honest.
That's right.
And don't forget, this podcast is recorded under a SAG-AFTRA collective bargaining agreement because we are all about the union, and that includes making our show a union podcast.
Social media, always and forever, by Harold Phillips.
For the Labor Radio Podcast Weekly, I'm Chris Garlock. Stay active.
I'm Harold Phillips. Stay tuned to your local labor radio show or podcast.
And I'm Patrick Dixon. We'll see you next week. I didn't know you'd signed up to do the social media forever, Harold.
You know, man, every time I hear somebody say that, it feels like I'm being sentenced to a gulag or something. You will do social media now and forever.
I've got to read the small print.
You know, the fact that the guy who had you sign the contract had horns and you had to do it in blood could have been a clue, Harold. I'm just saying.
I mean, what are you going to do? You know, he had a really nice pen.